Hey guys, welcome back. We have a really quick video for you today. Hopefully you've been enjoying your 2023 habitat season and you've gotten a couple of the projects that you have on your to-do list either underway or maybe even completed, because we are approaching spring. We're kind of at the tail end of winter right now, so the habitat season is going quick, which brings me to what I want to talk about today. Because we are not quite yet to spring and we're still kind of trying to get through the last part of winter here, is something that you can do to help your deer herd during this really stressful time period of the year. It's going to vary a little bit depending on where your property is located at, but late winter is one of the most stressful time periods in the deer woods. There's not a lot of food available. There's a lot of snow on the ground, so the little food that is available is oftentimes harder to get to. And this is really tough on the deer herd. But there are a few things that we can do as land managers to really help them out during this difficult time of the year, kind of help them pass the finish line, help them as we push into spring. And one of the first things that comes to mind for most of us when we're thinking about helping the deer through the winter, providing some sort of a late season food source, is to plant a late season food plot. While that is a great option and something that you should absolutely consider, it's not going to be the focus of today's video, and I'll tell you why. Recently, we were hit with two major ice storms here in West Michigan, within a week of one another. We had about 6 inches, give or take, of snow on our food plots, and then we got hit with freezing rain. Again, not once, but twice. And what this did is it created a thick layer of ice on top of our food plots, or really anywhere in the woods. You could practically skate through the woods after that ice storm went through. So if you're a deer and you're trying to get to one of our food sources on our property, our food plots, it's going to be very difficult for you to dig down through that ice to get to that food plot. So because our food plots were covered in that ice, that meant that they were no longer an option as a food source for the local deer herd. Now, whitetails are survivors. They're extremely tough. You know, they've been surviving much harsher winters than the one that we've been having here in West Michigan. They've been surviving for thousands of years. So I'm not suggesting that, because we had a tough week with a couple freezing rains, that we're in any way, in jeopardy of losing deer to winter kill. Not at all. But the point that I want to make is I don't want the deer herd to just survive winter. I want to carry as healthy of a deer herd into the spring. The healthier your deer are as they move into the spring, the less energy they have to use to recover from that previous winter. And for does, that means they can spend more energy on fawn production, on milk production, and for bucks, that means that they can spend more energy on antler development. And anything that I can do to reduce the stress levels of the local deer herd, or really anything that I can do to help these deer out during these last few weeks of winter, I'm going to try to do it. And that brings us to one of the easiest things that we can do for the deer on our property, really throughout the winter, but more importantly right now during those last few weeks of winter, that toughest part of the year for the local deer herd. And that's simply to go and cut some trees down on your property. Bring that top down that was in the canopy down to the forest floor to deer level. Throughout the winter, woody browse makes up a majority of the whitetail's diet. And depending on your area, your property, how much early successional growth that you have, towards the end of winter, a lot of that preferred browse might have already been consumed. Dropping these trees is a great way to provide an instant food source for the deer on your property. You'd be surprised how fast these deer find and devour these tops, especially if it's a preferred species. We dropped this maple maybe a month ago, and it didn't take them long to kind of go through and browse down everything that was at their level. I think my son, he kind of wants to come and say something here for the video. Come here, buddy. Let me pick you up. I think here, let me pick you up. Oh, face me this way. Oh, all right. What did you want to say?
And another great way is to go and try to go deer hunting on Halloween, because that's when a really big buck comes out.
That's actually a really good point. I'm glad you said that. That's one of my favorite days to go hunting.
And you find good spots to make deer beds to find bucks.
Yep, you gotta find those good spots to make maybe those deer beds. So hopefully the big one will be staying on your property during deer hunting season, right?
Yeah. And maybe you could bring a doe, buy a buck, and the doe will run to you, and maybe you could shoot it.
Yeah, you could maybe call the doe in, and then the buck will follow the doe. Yeah, I've never done that before, but you know, you could do that. I know some people who have done that before. Hey, thanks for sharing, buddy. I appreciate it. All right. Ugh. So even though those tips weren't really related to, you know, helping deer out during the stressful time of the year, those were still some pretty solid tips. So we'll leave them in there. But yeah, one of the best things that you can do for your deer right now, you know, late winter, regardless of where you are, it's going to be a different time of the year depending on where your property is located, is just to go out and cut a few trees down to bring that top down to the forest floor. There are thousands of buds on that top, and that entire top is deer food. Another really cool thing about this method for helping your deer out during the winter is that it really doesn't cost you anything. I guess it just costs you however much the gas was to run your chainsaw, but it doesn't cost much to go out there and cut a few trees down. One thing I will say though is that not all trees are created equal. Now, depending on how hungry the deer are, they'll eat practically anything. However, there are some preferred species. For example, a maple, you know, is going to be more preferred over a beech. So I mean, if you have maple oak on your property, you know, they're gonna want to browse on that over a beech or over an ironwood or something like that. So there are some preferred species, but if you have a couple trees on your property, you say, okay, here's a big maple, it might be blocking some sunlight in a bedding area and you want to open it up a little bit, or maybe it's shading out one of your food plots and you want to cut that down. Maybe wait until later in January, February to go out and cut that tree down. That way you can be killing two birds with one stone. You can be opening up the canopy, letting in some sunlight to your bedding area or your food plot, and you can also be feeding the deer at the same time. But guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video on an easy way that you can still help your deer herd this winter by dropping a couple trees to the ground, getting that top down to the forest floor. If you guys have any questions on that or any questions in general, please drop those in the comment section below. I'll get back to those as soon as I can, and we will see you guys in the next video.